What if the money in your wallet isn't really yours? What if every dollar you spend, every transaction you make, secretly strengthens a system built not to serve you, but to control you? The US dollar didn't just become the world's currency by chance. It was engineered step by step through wars, debt, and quiet agreements behind closed doors. And somewhere along the way, it stopped being a symbol of prosperity and became the most powerful weapon ever created without a single shot fired. Today, we'll uncover how the dollar became that weapon, and why every nation, including yours, is trapped inside its invisible empire. Our story begins in the ashes of World War II. The world's economies were shattered. Nations needed rebuilding, and the United States emerged untouched, with 2/3 of the world's gold locked in its vaults. In 1944, 44 nations gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. There, in a quiet hotel room, the blueprint for a new world financial order was signed. The agreement was simple. Every major currency would be pegged to the US dollar. The dollar itself would be backed by gold. It sounded fair, stable, logical, but in reality, it gave Washington a hidden advantage: control over global liquidity. Every nation's trade, debt, and reserves would now revolve around one single currency, the dollar. And as America printed more dollars, the world quietly fell deeper into dependence. In the 1950s and 60s, the system worked until it didn't. As the US funded wars in Korea and Vietnam and expanded social spending at home, the dollar supply exploded. Foreign governments began to notice that America was spending far more than it had in gold. Then came 1971, the breaking point. President Richard Nixon, faced with countries demanding gold for their dollars, made a single announcement that changed everything. The US would temporarily suspend the dollar's convertibility to gold. Gold was gone. And money, real tangible money, became pure trust. That trust was weaponized almost immediately. After 1971, the world feared collapse. Without gold, what would back the dollar? The answer came through a deal few ever heard about: the Petrodollar Agreement. In the 1970s, US officials struck secret deals with Saudi Arabia and other oil-rich nations. Sell your oil only in US dollars, and in return, America would protect your regimes. The result? Every country that needed oil, meaning every country, now needed dollars. And the more oil the world consumed, the stronger America's control became. This wasn't economics. It was geopolitics disguised as finance. From sanctions to trade leverage, the dollar turned into a global switch, one that could turn nations on or off with the stroke of a pen. Decades later, the effects are everywhere. Global debt now exceeds $315 trillion, more than 3 times the world's total GDP. Emerging nations borrow in dollars, only to be crushed by rising US interest rates. When America prints money, inflation hits the poorest countries first. When America tightens, global economies suffocate. And today, the weapon is evolving again into its next form: digital control. With the rise of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, the same mechanisms that once controlled nations could soon control individuals. The dollar's dominance has always been less about money and more about permission. History shows that every empire builds its power on money, and every monetary empire eventually collapses under its own weight. The Roman denarius was debased until it became worthless. The British pound ruled for centuries before the dollar replaced it. And now, the cracks are visible again. De-dollarization efforts, gold-backed trade alliances, and digital currencies threatening to rewrite the system. But for now, the dollar remains the weapon of choice: precise, silent, and devastatingly effective. So what can we learn from this hidden history? First, control over money is control over people. Whoever issues currency writes the rules of the game. Second, every system built on debt and trust eventually faces reality, and reality always wins. Third, the next global shift won't be announced. It will happen quietly, just as it did in 1944 and 1971. The question isn't if the dollar's dominance ends, but what replaces it and who will control it next. If you found this story eye-opening, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our economy, because the next chapter of money's history is being written right now.